Sequential art review initiated. Canon elasticity approaching failure. Visual storytelling adequate. Lore consequences pending.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Voyager Homecoming review. And now before we start, this review took a little bit of time because I was battling my battles with Paramount over the copyright issues. And you know, when people complain about that, yeah, it's annoying, but it also can be good. It actually allowed me to sit down and rewrite the script a little bit, tweak it, and also get final confirmation when the last part is going to come out. Now that all of that is underway, let's not waste any time and let's start talking about the Homecoming. Now, today we'll be talking about the issue 4 out of the 5-issue limited series, which of course means we are officially 1 issue away from the finale, and you can feel it. This is the issue where the story stops circling the problem and finally commits.
Statements. Narrative escalation confirmed. Remaining margin for error minimal.
As always, this review is going to be split into 2 parts. First, we're going to have a non-spoiler part of the review, and then we move into full spoilers because there's a lot to talk about here. And one quick note before we begin. The 5th and final issue of Voyager Homecoming series is going to be released on February 11th. So set your calendars. And now let's start spoiler-free review. Issue 4 of this comic is very much a turning point chapter. This is where Captain Janeway is finally forced to make a decision that can't be undone in a situation where every option carries some kind of a cost. The issue is heavy on action, but what I liked about it is that it never loses the sight of the character. The battles are intense, the danger actually feels real, and yet the story consistently makes room for emotional beats to land, especially when it comes to 7 of 9.
Observation. Emotional restraint detected. This is statistically rare.
Now, that restraint is one of the issue's biggest strengths. Big moments are allowed to breathe without being underlined or over-explained. The long-standing Voyager dynamics are addressed quietly without turning into a spectacle or some kind of a revision. This is also clearly the setup chapter for the finale, of course. The threads are placed carefully, the tension is escalating, and by the end, it's obvious that there is no easy way out of what comes next. My only hesitation, honestly, is the scale. With so much in play and only 1 issue left, the finale has a lot to resolve. But as a penultimate chapter, you know, this issue actually does exactly what it should be doing. If you're following Voyager Homecoming, this is really an essential read. And that's about everything I can say when it comes to non-spoilers. So now we're moving to the spoiler review.
Warning issued. Narrative containment has failed. Spoilers imminent.
Alright, full spoilers. Now, rather than walking through every beat of the issue, I really want to focus on what actually matters here. Because this issue is less about events and more about choices and the consequences of those choices. The central decision is, of course, Janeway siding with the severed Borg against species 8472. And what makes this work is that the comic is very precise about which Borg are we siding with. They're the ones who are disconnected from the collective. They can't assimilate. They are no longer an extension of the Borg machine. 7 of 9 is kind of the moral focal point of that decision. Her argument that these drones are no more responsible for the collective's crimes than she is herself really feels true to her entire arc that we've seen on Voyager. And Janeway listening to that argument also feels true to her arc.
Clarification, gratitude acknowledged, romance probability increased, melodrama avoided.
Now, there's a brief moment of connection between Seven and one of the drones, and it's handled beautifully. It's quiet, it's restrained, and the most important part is that it does not hijack the story. The possibility of something more is really acknowledged, and they're not trying to hide that, and then it's left alone, which is exactly the right choice, because we are, in the middle of a war. This also has the, at least for me, a really good side effect of finally and mercifully moving Seven away from Chakotay's relationship. The comic does not kind of make a point of it. It does not try to editorialize this moment. It just simply allows Seven to exist outside of that late series Voyager detour. That's the best way I can explain it. And the character immediately feels more like herself.
Assessments, narrative correction executed without temporal damage.
Now, the battle itself really reinforces the thematic core of the issue. Voyager placing itself between Species 8472 and the Borg Cube honestly is a really uncomfortable act. And what I like here is seeing the crew's reaction. Now, in this moment, none other than Tom Paris is literally voicing this belief that they're about to die defending the Borg, which kind of captures exactly how wrong this feels. But this is why this Janeway choice is still meaningful. Species 8472, on the other hand, is kind of presented without softening. There is no interest in mercy and no willingness to distinguish between individuals. Guilt is collective. Punishment is absolute. That unflinching hatred is what ultimately makes them terrifying all over again.
Warning, optimism levels approaching zero.
Now, we also have toolbox fragmented warnings that are coming in as another key element. His repeated attempt to communicate something about the weapons, culminating in the phrase release, revolt, regular 4, is deliberately unsolved. It's probably, and I hope it's not just a tease for tease's sake, it kind of feels like a piece of the puzzle that will either save everyone or doom them in the finale. And then we reach the reveal that kind of reframes everything. Species 8472's laboratory is not just a prison. It's kind of a response to Voyager's past action. The infiltrators from earlier encounters were not simply eliminated. They were changed. From 8472's perspective, Janeway's peace treaty was not an attempt of reconciliation, it was contamination. The idea that those who learned too much humanity became traitors is chilling. And it really reframes Species 8472's rage as something more personal and more dangerous than simple vengeance.
Conclusion, hostile intent confirmed, mercy protocols absent.
So, by the end of this issue, all the pieces are in place. The crew is captured, the enemy is defined, the moral lines are clear, even if the solutions are not. Like I said, my only lingering concern is whether the finale issue can resolve all of it without rushing or resorting to spectacle. But up to this point, Voyager Homecoming has earned a lot of trust on my side. A great thing about this issue is it doesn't just move the plot forward, it actually clarifies what the story is actually about. And that makes it a strong and thoughtful lead in to the finale.
Final assessment pending. Probability of survival uncertain. Efficiency maintained. Support the organic creator. Like, share and subscribe.